joining me on a quilting tale today. My name is Shaylin, and this is a progress video on some of the quilt-alongs that I've been working on. I have finished one, and I'm going to share about another one that I will be starting this summer. So most of these are free quilt-alongs. The one I'm going to be introducing at the end you do have to buy the pattern for, but I'll get to that a little later. Let's go ahead and get started with the first quilt-along that I started, and it just wrapped up in May. This is the Riley Blake Designs Block Challenge quilt-along, and it had 16 different blocks that I started in January, and it's too big to hold the whole finished top up, so I will put a picture up so you can see the whole thing, but I will come in close also so you can see the setting that I ended up doing. I didn't use the one that was the free setting option that was on the site. So I will, like I said, come in close so you can see more of these blocks, but this was the quilt that I wanted to use lots of coral and aqua as my main colors, and then I had secondary colors of dark blue, red, and that bright citrusy green because those were prominent in several of the fabrics that I used that had aqua and coral. I also had some darker, like charcoal gray in here as well. As you can see up close, the setting that I've done has sashing strips and 9 patch blocks for the cornerstones between each piece of sashing, and the centers used some of those secondary colors, and then I used coral in the corners and aqua strips in the sashing. So on my website, aquiltingtale.com, I give all the fabric requirements if you like a setting like this and would want to do one like this, but this quilt finishes at 59.5 by 59.5 inches, so a little smaller than the original, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think all the blocks look great together and the colors play well together. This was a very satisfying quilt top to make. The quilt-along blocks are all complete, I'm not quite done with this quilt yet. I decided I wanted to do a pieced backing for this quilt, and so I found this bird. It's called Pierced Bird Block by Riley Blake Designs, and it's another free pattern. I'll link it down below, but I plan on enlarging this bird and making some kind of frame around it with all those extra bonus blocks that I got out of making these 16 original blocks. So I want to do something with this bird because Riley Blake Designs' little logo is a bird, and just try something fun on the back. So that will be an upcoming tutorial this summer as I work on that. I'm still gonna get some background fabric and figure out exactly how I want to do it, but I do know I want to incorporate the bird. So let's move on to the next quilt-along. This one is a Quilting Life's Mystery Block of the Month. So if you recall, this quilt-along just has one block a month. This is the June block, and they all feature the churn dash border around them. I'm using Poppy Cotton's Daisy May fabric line on this one, which has the gold and navy in it. Those are my predominant colors here, but there's also a lot of light pink and softer yellows in it as well. So this one, I really like the floral design here and the little checks in the navy that you don't really see unless you get up close to it. So really cute fabric in this line, and this has been a really just relaxing, easy to put together quilt-along so far. The next quilt-along has a recommended donation to the Make-A-Wish Foundation to participate, and that's the Heartfelt quilt-along put out by Fat Quarter Shop. This one releases one block a month, but you make 5 of them at a time. So let me show you the progress on this one using the Flower Sugar Rose Kiss fat quarter bundle. I still have quite a bit of it left with just, I believe, one more main block to make, so I'm doing well with that bundle. So let's come in and look at the latest blocks, which are called Love Bug. These Love Bug blocks have a similar look to them as the first release, the Beloved block. However, there are these extra corner accents that started as hourglass blocks that you trim off, and so it just kind of gives it a more pointed frame around the heart. I would say this is the most challenging block to date because there are a lot of diagonal seams to line up at different points in the block. So it just took a lot of really intentional piecing and kind of nudging fabric over on this one. So here's one of them. This fabric line works out well because there are 5 main colors, and since you make 5 blocks each time, it just gives you a chance to highlight all the main colors and mix them between the center heart and the stars around the border. There was a mix in the fat quarter bundle of these, not quite dots, they look almost like wavy little sunshines or something. I'm not sure what you'd call that shape, or like ripply little stars, but there's a mix of them that come in different colorways. Like this one has some dark purple in it and some orangey red, whereas this one has more pinks and bright blues and that fuchsia pink in it. So there were some mixes in there that I didn't want too close to my background fabric here, this Beautiful Day fabric, and so it was nice that it could be separated with the bolder colors. And there's the last one. So those are my Love Bugs. There's one more main block in July, and then August will be the setting and the finishing of the top. And Heartfelt Quilt Along releases a new pattern the first Friday of every month. When I do finish the Heartfelt Quilt Along top, I don't plan on doing the pieced backing that will be released. I want to use all those bonus blocks that I've been making. I've made previous videos about those bonus blocks. I want to do something to make a pieced backing, but I have selected the fabric that I'll use for the backing. This is a Love Lily print, and it has kind of a reddish pink background here, heavier on the red, and then it has some lighter pink in it, which reminds me of the pinks in the Flower Sugar Rose Kiss fabric. That line seems to be pretty wiped out online. I can't find large amounts of backing that match any of the prints, so I just took some swatches of the fabric and just walked around my local quilt shop looking for something that would look good with those prints. And I also decided on this pink and a checkered print that's from A Beautiful Day, and so this will be the binding for that quilt. And like I said, I'll do something pieced with all those bonus blocks, so that's still a plan that I'll be working on. The top won't be finished until August, so maybe by the end of the summer or early fall I'll have something to share with these, but I'll also show you these up close next to the blocks so you can see how they look together. So I liked this for a background because it has those roses in the print, which the Flower Sugar Rose Kiss also has a lot of roses in. And then there's this bright pinkish red that's, I think, leans closer to being red, and so I thought that would look nice with this fabric and even complement, the blues and yellows that aren't in here. And then all of the fabrics have a bit of green for the stems and leaves and the roses. And then this checkered print is just a softer pink, which I thought would be a nice binding and pull some of the pinks and the roses here. And again, there are the light pinks in this fabric line too, so lots of light pink to pick up on, and there is that kind of gingham look to it as well, so thought it would just all work out nice together and be a nice pop of color on the back of the quilt. Next, I'm going to show you my Moda Blockheads 4 blocks. There are several of these because this one comes out every Wednesday, so you get a block a week, and then there are bonus blocks every few Fridays. So I have several new ones to show with this one since my last check-in. And a couple of them I actually swapped out for blocks from Moda Blockheads 3, which don't come in the 9.5 inch unfinished size. So I did some quilt math on a couple of these blocks, which I think I'll share how I did that in an upcoming video. But I changed some of them to shrink them down from 12 inches to 9 inches to fit in with the other Moda Blockheads 4 blocks. So this one is a crayon box themed quilt that I'm doing. I want bright, vivid crayon colors for this, for all my blocks that I make. So it has a scrappy look, but hopefully looks good together when you see all the blocks because of the bright nature of the fabric. So we're picking up with block 8 here. This is called Wild Geese by Kate Spain. This is the 4th bonus block called Zipper by Moda Fabrics. Cross My Mind by Bridget Heitland for Zen Chic. And I really like my seagull fabric in here with the fish and the french fries. It's a fun print, and then a little nautical compass in the middle. This was a nice one for highlighting larger prints. This one actually isn't Moda Blockheads 4. This is block 1 from Blockheads 3 called Star Chain by Corey Yoder. So this is one that I did some math to shrink it down a little bit. And the reason I didn't do the 10th block autumnal from Blockheads 4 is just because, I'll just pop over here because it's right here. The Riley Blake Designs quilt along already had a leaf in it, and I just thought they were just too close to the same theme there, so I wanted to do something different. So I made this one primarily green with a pop of red in that mushroom roof there. So I really love this block and wanted to incorporate it somewhere, so I was glad for a chance for a swap. Here's the 5th bonus block, Wheatfield, and this one just is very cheery and reminds me of summer with the bright blues and this orangish pink and the yellow. It's just a very sunny looking block. And the last one here is another swap for a Blockheads 3 block. I didn't do the berry block, which was block number 11, just because I had a lot of reds, but I wasn't really feeling the berry look with the red fabrics that I have. So I decided to just do another swap for one that I was eager to do from Blockheads 3. So this is block 12 called Hampshire Star by Janet Clare. And so again, I just did some math to reduce this one. So that's the last of Moda Blockheads to take us through the first week of June. And there are more waiting to be made, which I'll share in the next progress video. The last quilt that I'm working on that I've been sharing my progress on isn't actually a quilt along, but a free pattern from Fat Quarter Shop. This is the Brickhouse quilt, where you make little houses out of your quilt scraps. I'm using it as a record quilt. So I've made 2 more blocks since the last time I shared some of those. Again, a free pattern on Fat Quarter Shop that I'll link below. So here's another brick house. This one goes along with that coral and aqua Riley Blake Designs quilt top that I just shared. So here it is next to it. You can see how well they complement each other. This one was probably my favorite block to do in that quilt. I love how it turned out. But I just used some more of my scraps, which I made this quilt top out of with just scrap fabric and little bits that I had in my stash, and I was able to still have enough to make the brick house block to commemorate it. These all have a light door. I'm making all the doors have a white or almost all white. They might have little pops of color for the door, and I might like I mentioned before, put some buttons or something on for doorknobs. But that is the Riley Blake Designs Brickhouse. And finally, this is a block that goes along with a Swoon 16 quilt that I made maybe about 2 years ago. This is using Return to Winter's Lane fabric, and I'll put a picture up of the finished quilt. I really love how the quilt turned out, so it made me happy to revisit these fabrics and put them in a cute little house. And speaking of Swoon 16, that brings me to my latest quilt along that I'll be joining. It hasn't officially started yet, but I saw that Thimble Blossoms is doing a summer Swoon quilt along, and you can use any of the Swoon patterns to make a quilt. It's supposed to be pretty laid back and easy to follow along with. So I might get a jump start on this because I've actually had this pattern for several years. So I mentioned you need to buy the pattern for this one. I made Swoon 16, which had smaller blocks, and it had vertical and horizontal sashing strips to kind of break up each block. This one, the blocks are a little larger. They're going to make 24-inch blocks, so these will probably be the largest blocks that I've made, and there's only 9 of them, so since they're large, I anticipate they'll come together quicker than when I made the Swoon 16, and I'll be a little more familiar with it than I was the first time. And I know I've gotten a lot better at not sewing the tips of my points into my seam allowance, so I plan on using a fabric line that I've also had for a while, and I've just been waiting to make this quilt. I just thought with an official Swoon summer quilt along coming that this would be a great time to jump in and get this quilt made. So I'm going to be using All Hallows Eve. I have a fat quarter bundle here, and I've just been waiting to make the Swoon pattern with this. And so this is from Fig Tree and Company, and I already have, because I know this one is also I've seen it in a lot of clearance sections now. It's probably a little harder to come by now at this point, so I got all of this quite a while ago, knowing I wanted to make the Swoon pattern with it. So I have my background fabric, which has the ivory and that kind of light orange floral print to it. I love that print in Fig Tree. I see it in several different colorways. And then I have this little dotted kind of beige fabric for the binding. So I'll show you that up close too, but I'm looking forward to starting that this summer, and hopefully we'll get it done in time for the fall to have it on the bed, because I don't have a large fall quilt for the bed yet, so this will be a good one to make. So thank you again for tuning in and watching my progress. I hope you enjoy seeing the quilts come together and some of my choices. And if you'd like to support my channel, I appreciate the subscription and the thumbs up to let me know you like these kinds of videos. Thank you again for watching. I'm excited to kick off the summer and wrap up my last week of school here, and hopefully do a lot more quilting this summer and more videos with the time off from school. So until next time, see you later.